Hi everyone, I just wanted to make a quick video to let you know about this video that I watched earlier this morning. It's called The 8th Moedim, a Jubilee Rapture, and it's by the Watchman's Watchman. And in this video he's explaining how this is his very first video and possibly his only video. And he just wanted to put this out as a warning because time is very short. And in this video he's making a very good case about the rapture possibly taking place on Yom Kippur. As you can see, he's done some day counts over here, but one of the most important things that he pointed out in this video is that the Jubilee trumpet is blown on Yom Kippur on the 10th day of the 7th month. And another important point is that it will still be the Hebrew year 5777 right up until the Jubilee trumpet is blown. And I thought this was particularly interesting because I had done a table not too long ago that I showed in one of my videos, but I had put in the words day, hour, no one knows. And right in the middle of this table, a date came up, and that's the 10th day of the first month. And as the Watchman's Watchman points out in this video, there's a civil calendar as well as a religious calendar. And the month of Tishri is actually the first day of the first month on the civil calendar. So the 10th day of the first month according to the civil calendar would be Yom Kippur, but of course God commanded us to use the religious calendar, and so that's why it's the 7th month, but based on the civil calendar it would be the first month. So I just thought that was really interesting that he's making an excellent case here for Yom Kippur. And that's the day that comes up in this table. And I had added some other terms after that, and all of these other terms came up as well. But it's really amazing where it came up also, because it came up in the book of Joshua, which of course Joshua is a type of Jesus. And the initial verses that came up, which are verses 14 through 22, actually match up with this blood moon pattern that I've talked about. If you start from the first blood moon in 2014 and then you extend this pattern out for about 7 years, it would match up with the verses in this table, which start from verse 14 and go through to about 22, but I believe the pattern is through to about 20 or 21, starting with verse 14. And I'll go ahead and read this matrix again because this is a really important matrix. And starting with verse 14, it says, "On that day Jehovah magnified Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they feared him as they feared Moses all the days of his life. And Jehovah spake unto Joshua, saying, Command the priests that bear the ark of the testimony, that they come up out of the Jordan. Joshua therefore commanded the priests, saying, Come ye up out of the Jordan." And this is coming up in verse 17. So, and this is the crossing of the Jordan River, which is crossing into the Promised Land, which is a type of crossing into heaven. And Jesus or Joshua is saying, "Come ye up out of the Jordan," and this is in verse 17. And then it goes on to say, "And it came to pass when the priests that bear the ark of the covenant of Jehovah were come up out of the midst of the Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet were lifted up unto the dry ground, that the waters of the Jordan returned into their place and went over all its banks as aforetime. And the people came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and encamped in Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. And the 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan did Joshua set up in Gilgal. And over here with the 12 stones, he's apparently setting up a tabernacle or an altar over here, which is something I want to talk about a little more as well, which is the Feast of Tabernacles. But then he goes on to say, and he spake unto the children of Israel, saying, when your children shall ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what mean these stones? Then ye shall let your children know, saying, Israel came over this Jordan on dry land. And so this crossing over the Jordan and crossing into the Promised Land was a type of crossing through the Red Sea and into the Promised Land as well. And all of this is a type of crossing over into heaven, which is the true Promised Land. Okay, so Yom Kippur is a very important date to be looking for, and this is the Watchman's Watchman over here. He's explaining how he's a lead guitarist in a worship band in a church in Sacramento, and so I highly recommend watching this video. I'll put the link in the description box. But getting back to the Feast of Tabernacles, I wanted to just present that as another possibility as well, because another thing I was notified about is that 364 days, or exactly 1 year from this sign that took place last October, which I believe could very possibly have been the sign of the woman, the Revelation 12 sign, because the moon is just below Virgo's feet. She had just given birth to Venus. I had explained that in my last video, and this was in 2016, and the height of the pyramid is 5776, so it matched up with the Hebrew year that matches up with the height of the pyramid. And so this could have been a sign that the Sphinx is pointing to, as well as the Bethlehem conjunction, which took place right by Virgo's head between Venus and Jupiter. And then prior to that, you had a conjunction with Venus and Regulus on August 4th, which is another important date that I've talked about. So you had all these important signs last year, and I've talked about how the Revelation 12 sign is a type, or I believe it's a type of the book of Esther, and Esther was given 1 year to prepare before the king married her. She was given 6 months of myrrh and spices and ointments. It was divided up into 2 6-month periods, but it was a total of 1 year. And I've also mentioned how Leland Jones has suggested this as well, that the Revelation 12 sign is a type of Esther, and there's been a year of preparation. And so exactly 1 year from this date over here would be the Feast of Tabernacles. As you can see in 2017, it begins on Wednesday, October 4th, and goes through October 11. And so that would be another possibility. This would be going into early Hebrew year 5778, however, and I tend to lean towards the rapture taking place within the Hebrew year 5777, but I did want to point this out as another possibility. And also because there's a video that I watched a little while ago by Maranatha Amen, and in this video she had explained how the turn of the season actually takes place when the sun shifts over from one side of due east or due west to the other side, and I'll show you that on Stellarium in just a minute. But that takes place sometime in October, and as you can see in Exodus 34:22, it says, I'll start from verse 21. It says, you shall work 6 days, but on the 7th day you shall rest. Even during plowing time and harvest you shall rest. You shall celebrate the Feast of Weeks, that is the first fruits of the wheat harvest, and the Feast of Ingathering, at the turn of the year. And some translations say at the end of the year. So there's also the possibility that the year lasts all the way up until the Feast of Sukkot at the turn of the year. And it's interesting that it says here that you'll celebrate the Feast of Weeks, which is Pentecost, at the same time as the Feast of Ingathering at the end of the year. So they're both celebrated at the end of the year according to Exodus 34:22. And I'll just show you over here how, well, let me change this to 2017. But I'll show you how the sun sets to the left of due west in October, as you can see here. But if you take this to September and you go back a few hours, you see that it sets right at due west in September. And then if you take it to October and you go back a few hours, you see that it sets to the east, or to the right of due west. So it crosses over from the right side of due west in August to the left side of due west in October, and in September it's right at due west. So when it crosses from one side to the other, is considered to be the turn of the year. Okay, I just reset this to today's date. Another important thing that I wanted to point out is, according to, depending on how closely you zoom in to Virgo, if you zoom in close enough, this is when you would see Jupiter cross the line. It would actually be today. You see it crossing the line, and today is September 9th. And another thing that happens starting today is, this is the beginning of the sextanted meteor shower. If you go back just one day, you see that it begins today, and it lasts through to about the 29th of September. You can see that, or actually it says the 9th of October over here. Activity from the 9th of September to the 9th of October, with the maximum on the 27th of September. So this is the beginning of the sextanted meteor shower, which has the number 6 all over it. Okay, this is a picture of a sextant over here. According to Wikipedia, it says a sextant is a doubly reflecting navigation instrument that measures the angular distance between two visible objects. And over here it says the frame of a sextant is in the shape of a sexter, which is approximately 1/6 of a circle, or 60 degrees. And so 1/6 would be 1 divided by 6, and when you do that you get 0.16 infinitely. And so that meteor shower begins today, which is a Decan constellation for the constellation Hydra, which represents the multi-headed dragon. And so I just wanted to end by saying my thoughts and prayers go out to everyone who's in the path of Hurricane Irma. It's apparently going to affect the entire state of Florida. As you can see from all these tables, I tried putting in all these different cities and September 10th. And as you can see, every single one of these cities came up with the words September 10th and monsoon or category 5. So we already know Florida is going to get hit, but this is just showing that God knows everything in advance before it happens, and so He's in control of all things. So we can take confidence in that God will be with us throughout this storm. And again, just want to pray for everybody's safety. And thanks for watching this video, and God bless you all.